Welcome to the Perimenopausal Mamas podcast for hormonal mamas who want to reclaim their own natural state of health to thrive and raise healthy kids. I'm Dr. Lisa Weeks, naturopathic doctor in Toronto, Canada, and I'm a perimenopausal mama to my little boy named Stuart.
And I'm Dr. Tony Reed, naturopathic doctor, birth doula, and hypnobirthing educator in Calgary, Canada, and I'm a perimenopausal mama to my little girl, Frankie. Thanks for supporting us for the past 100 episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also support us by visiting our Patreon page, where you can find out how you can join us for our monthly patron webinar, where we do a deeper dive discussion about all things perimenopause.
The information in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not meant to substitute professional medical advice. Always consult with your licensed healthcare provider. Welcome back, everyone, to the Perimenopausal Mamas podcast. Today's Dr. Lisa, and I'm recording a solo episode. I've been missing in action. Unfortunately, we had a death in the family, and just dealing with all the emotions and all the things that surround that have drained me, but I'm getting back on my 2 feet and jumping back in. So Dr. Tony and I will be recording together soon and solo episodes, and we're going to be putting out new and amazing episodes. But today I'm going to talk about one of the big concerns so many patients in perimenopause and menopause come to see me for, and that is the associated weight gain. A lot of women say, I'm eating the same, exercising the same, but in perimenopause, when their periods start to become a bit irregular, or they start to experience hot flashes, sleep issues, or other symptoms, commonly weight starts to creep up, and women can gain up to 10 pounds or even more during that transition during perimenopause into menopause, and menopause being defined as going 12 years without a period. So up to 10 pounds or more. And a lot of people notice it in the midsection, and it can be in that abdominal area, that subcutaneous fat, that fat around the organs, which can increase our risk of a lot of diseases like heart disease and diabetes. There can be more inflammation. And so many women don't really understand why this is happening. I always think of the U2 song, Running to Stand Still, because that's what it feels like we have to do in perimenopause. We push. What we did when we were younger is no longer is working. And even just to maintain our weight feels like an uphill battle. So we need to understand, first of all, what's happening. And there are ways to support us to help prevent this associated weight gain, to help favor a healthy body composition that is going to keep us strong and have balance and be vital and have a longer health span. So what's actually happening? So in perimenopause, we've talked about the fluctuating levels of estrogen. Some months estrogen can be high, and this could be when you have, a heavy flow, a flow that lasts a long time. Other months estrogen can be low. Maybe you're having some menopausal symptoms. Other times where you're getting hot flashes and sleep issues, you might skip a period. Maybe your flow is really light. All of these changes in estrogen, the up and down, is really hard on our brain, on our body. Estrogen is a hormone that's anabolic. We always think, testosterone. Yes, that helps with muscle building, but so does estrogen. Estrogen is anabolic, and it supports our satiety, which means it supports us feeling satisfied and satiated with the foods that we're eating. And it also is involved in supporting muscle growth, and it supports our resting energy expenditure. So when we have the right levels of estrogen in our reproductive years, estrogen supports our metabolism at rest, and it helps us build muscle. We're going to get a lot of benefits from strength training, from eating even moderate amounts of protein in our 20s and our 30s. But when we get to a lower estrogen state in especially later perimenopause and in menopause, that resting energy expenditure goes down. We're going to have a lower muscle mass. So we're burning less energy at rest, less calories at rest. We're also going to be experiencing what's called a protein resistance. So when we were in our 20s and 30s, we could probably get away with eating 60 grams of protein or less and still be able to build muscle from our exercise. But in our 40s and our 50s, we need to increase our protein intake significantly because our muscles aren't going to take it up as well as they used to. And we also want to strength train because that's the signal for the muscles to build and repair. And we need to sleep, which is the time where our muscles repair and rebuild as well. So many women are shocked to hear they need to eat more protein. And we don't necessarily want to get a total higher caloric intake. We want to have the ratio of our diet change to higher protein and lower carbohydrates and a little bit lower fats as well. Obviously, reducing some of the junk food if possible. So many women have trouble with binge eating during perimenopause and menopause. And there's so many different factors, different emotional triggers. But one of them can be what I call the protein deficiency munchies. So when you're not getting enough protein, your body is craving it, but we may not hear that signal. We may not hear that message. And we reach for a bag of chips, a bag of cookies, crackers, baked goods, whatever it is. And we never feel satiated. We may overeat that when our body really just wants protein. It was shown in studies when mice had muscle breakdown, if they were given a selection of foods, protein, carbs, and fat during that time, they would go to the protein and eat more protein. Whereas in the world we live in, there is these hyper palatable foods that we can crave. So we may reach for those when our body is actually craving protein and we don't really register that signal. So the goal we typically look for how much protein is aiming for about 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So to do that calculation, so let's say you weigh 150 pounds. You would divide that by 2.2 to get the kilogram amount. So 150 pounds divided by 2.2, that would be 68 kilograms. And then you would times your weight in kilograms by 1.6. So 68 kilograms multiplied by 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That would be 109 grams of protein. And to be honest, when I review patients' diet diary and by eyeballing what I see they're getting, most women are getting between 40 and 60 grams of protein. And we need this higher number as we get into perimenopause and menopause because of that protein resistance, as I mentioned, and because of that lower resting energy expenditure because estrogen is low. So we're burning less at rest. A lot of women are fearful that estrogen makes them gain weight. Estrogen's like the crossing guard to tell things where to go. If, estrogen is relatively too high, which is really actually hard to be too high in perimenopause and menopause, there can be more of that deposition of weight in the hips and the thighs, which actually isn't as harmful for our health as the midsection weight gain around the organs, that visceral subcutaneous fat. But we know estrogen supports our metabolism at rest. Who doesn't want that? So even when women were put on birth control or hormonal replacement therapy or menopausal hormone therapy, that can correct that lowered resting energy expenditure because when it's lower, if it's higher, we can burn 200, 300 more calories a day. When it's low, we lose that ability. And we're seeing weight training and strength training getting its moment in the spotlight, which is great. I don't think it's going to be a moment. I think it's going to be long term. So many women were trained to exercise on ellipticals, running long distances without the focus on strength training, using free weights, body weights. Some women are even going to Olympic lifting levels of strength training. because as we build muscle mass, it's going to change our body composition. As we go into perimenopause and menopause, our muscle mass goes down and our fat mass increases. And once that starts, it can be this downward spiral. We have lower muscle mass, we have lower resting energy expenditure. We're going to start to slowly see that composition change more and more over time to higher fat, lower muscle mass. And that lowered muscle mass is called sarcopenia. It sounds scary, but we do actually have muscle wasting as we age. And that's something that we do want to slow down. It's a progressive skeletal muscle mass that typically starts in our 40s. It can start in our 30s. And when we're in our 40s, we can lose 8% of our muscle mass every decade. And when we're over 70, we can lose 15% of our muscle mass per decade. So that's pretty shocking. So we are fighting against this natural decline. We're running to stand still, if you will. And a lot of factors influence our food choices and our activity levels in perimenopause and menopause. Our responsibilities increase. We're caring for others. So we may be grabbing foods that are more convenient, and we may be not carving out that time for exercise. Now with the hybrid work revolution, we're sitting so much more. If you went to an office, maybe you were walking to the subway, walking up and down the stairs, walking to talk to your coworker. Now we're sitting in our desk way longer than we ever did. So we have sedentary jobs, and we may be calling or emailing our partner who may be downstairs in the basement, and we're just too lazy to get up to talk to them, our husband, our spouse. We can have more muscle and joint pain as estrogen declines, and that makes it more difficult to exercise or want to exercise. We can feel tired. We're not sleeping well. We may be getting hot flashes or mood changes. It's all of these that add up. So we want support to feel our best during perimenopause and menopause. So we have the energy to put into ourselves to pick protein. We'll talk about some easy ways to get in more protein shortly, as well as to make our workouts more efficient. 20, 30 minutes of strength training 2 to 3 times a week, peppered in with, we're realizing a variety of types of exercise are very important. High impact interval training, high intensity interval training, I should say. It can be low impact because we want to be careful with our joints, as supervised by a personal trainer, doing that for 10 minutes a couple times a week, doing sprint training where you're running 30 seconds all out and then walking for 4 minutes, doing 8 rounds of that. Different ways to make our workouts more efficient. They don't have to be longer. But when we're doing it, we're challenging our body. We're not doing the same routine over and over because our body will adjust. It's not going to get stronger. We want to push ourselves. We want to have some muscle soreness. We want to take a recovery day or two, mix up the area of the body that you're strength training, or you can do full body strength training workouts. So really key. But we also want to be careful because as our estrogen declines, we're seeing more laxity in our tissues, in our joints, more injuries, more issues like plantar fasciitis and frozen shoulder. So we need to warm up and do mobility exercises, and ideally get assessed by a personal trainer to be put on a safe plan so that you don't cause problems. You don't want to go from maybe just walking right now to doing all of those types of exercises I talked about. You want to build up to that and make sure your body's moving correctly before you jump in, because I actually started to do a lot heavier weights. I probably wasn't doing it so well and having some shoulder pain. So now I'm getting assessed and I'm going to be put on a specific plan where it's the right movements for my body, because I don't want to get injured. I don't want to have any setbacks. And then we talked about the reasons we maybe don't exercise, maybe not make the right food choices, asking for help, right? Saying no to things, setting those boundaries. There's lots of great meal delivery services now that have higher protein foods. Maybe you buy a fresh whole organic chicken from the big carrot and have that for a few meals. There's quick and easy ways to get in more protein and make healthy choices, but definitely getting support through perimenopause and menopause by seeing a naturopathic doctor like myself or Dr. Tony or someone you're already seeing to get support with hormonal therapy, herbal support, nutritional supplementation support. These are all going to add up. And we know our type of fat actually changes too. We have lower levels of the brown adipose tissue, which is more metabolically active as our estrogen drops as well. And that can be responsible for the reduction in that resting energy expenditure. So our white fat, our white adipose tissue goes up, and this is more harmful for, our insulin, diabetes risk, cardiovascular risk. So, are you getting those protein deficiency munchies? Are you feeling insatiable hunger afternoon or later evening and reaching for more of those carbohydrates? Starting your day with more protein can set the tone for balanced blood sugar and prevent those protein deficiency munchies. So, what are some of my favorite ways to get in more protein? I'm now a big fan of the free range egg white beaters. Half of a cup has 10 grams of protein. So I scramble half a cup of that with 2 eggs. 2 eggs may give you 12, 16 grams of protein. So right there, I could be getting 26 grams of protein in the morning, and I may have it with a slice of, I really like the Sticklings low carb bread. One slice has 5.5 grams of protein. Maybe I'll have it with a little bit of sauteed spinach or some cherry tomatoes. But that's really one of my go-to breakfasts to get in more protein. I also love making a smoothie bowl in the afternoon. I go through different types of protein powders. I like the pumpkin seed protein powder, hemp protein, Vega Sport protein. I just mix the protein powder in a bowl with a fork and a spoon. If I'm feeling adventurous, I'll get a blender and blend it up. Some of the proteins are a little thicker, so it takes a little longer to mix, but I'll mix it with some organic soy milk, which is really high in protein. 1 cup could have 8 to 10 grams of protein in one inorganic soy milk. So I mix the protein powder, the soy milk. Maybe I'll add a little bit of coconut yogurt or some berries, but sometimes I'll just have an apple on the side with that. But that's a great way to get in more protein. A lot of people are also loving pumpkin seeds. 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds has 9 grams of protein. So some people add that to their yogurt. If you do dairy, Greek yogurt, higher protein yogurt could have, 11, 12 grams of protein in half a cup. So you could have 3/4 of a cup, or you could add some pumpkin seeds to your yogurt, and that's going to give you a high level. I'm also a fan, I know it's fairly processed, but those defatted peanut butter powders, they call them like a defatted peanut flour. They have PB Fit, PB2. There's lots of different brands. I typically get unsweetened. I add that sometimes to my smoothie bowl or a smoothie. And that is higher protein as well. And it gives it a really nice taste. A lot of people, if they're getting in some meat, some fish, some beef, some lamb, a palm size amount might be 3 or 4 ounces. You could be ranging from 20 to 30 grams of protein per serving. So you want to be getting some form of protein with your food. I'm a big fan of tofu, of tempeh. I go through all of this with my patients, and we talk about the amounts and the serving sizes and what to get. But you can, if you're vegetarian, you can work on getting it through various types of beans, legumes. Lentils are high in protein. I mentioned the tofu, the tempeh. Edamame is a great snack for protein. 1 cup has about 18 grams of protein. You can add those to salads as well. So there's a really lots of ways to get it. Just be careful because a lot of the processed foods now, high protein is the key word, right? There's high protein candy. Have maybe the candy a little bit in moderation to enjoy the candy, but don't use that as your daily way to get in more protein. If it's still processed, if it's still in a package, having it in moderation, but trying to get your protein from real whole foods as much as possible, and then supplementing maybe for the extra 10, 20 grams that you may need that you may not be getting outside of those meals. And a lot of people do lack protein in snacks. I do like the Simply bars. They have different oat bars, whey, and non-GMO soy bars. They're still processed, but they are lower sugar and they have a decent amount of protein. So those would be good. And there's lots of great recipes online to make your own protein bars now. And if you're doing smoothies, just being careful not to add a ton of carbohydrates, a ton of nuts and seeds. Because remember, as we're bumping up the protein, we want to drop down the amount of fat and carbohydrates, because we don't want to have an overabundance of calories, but just a higher percentage of calories coming from protein in our diet. And what are some of the negative consequences of sarcopenia and low muscle mass? Well, the less muscle mass we have, it does increase our risk of mortality and our risk of type 2 diabetes, our risk of cardiovascular disease, complications after surgeries, post-op. It takes longer to recover. We can have longer hospital stays. We even think of musculature. We need muscles to swallow properly. We need muscles between the ribs to clear out lung infections, right? A lot of people, unfortunately, as they get older and they get pneumonia, they can succumb to it because their body just can't clear it out. We need the proper musculature for balance to prevent falls. The muscles pull on the bones, which strengthen the bones too, so to prevent osteoporosis. And the more muscle mass we have, the better our blood glucose, our blood sugar control. And that not only translates into helping to prevent diabetes and non-alcoholic liver disease or fatty liver, but also to support our cognitive function. We know dementia can be a type 3 diabetes, a problem with glucose and insulin in the brain. So we're going to have better mental clarity, focus, cognition, blood pressure, mood, mobility. We're going to have a better quality of life and prevent metabolic syndrome as well. So hopefully that left you with some things to think about. Protein may be the underlooked macronutrient. Are you neglecting to pay attention to your protein intake? And then we'll talk again. We did have an episode on strength training with Dr. Andrea Pruce. So we'll link to that episode, but it's a topic we want to talk more about. But you want to do it safely and in ways that are going to keep you moving and not enhance injury. So we want to look at how we've been eating, how we were eating and exercising in our 20s and 30s are not going to serve us in our 40s, 50s, and beyond. So we really need to focus on protein and strength training. And, I think then you'll just start to feel more vital as well. So I'll put all of the links in the show notes that I mentioned. And then what is my super mom moment? Well, my super mom moment is that with everything going on, this isn't the super mom part, but I haven't been focusing on nurturing my personal relationships outside of my family. So I planned a girls' weekend. We're going to go away in a couple of weekends, and I'm really excited about that. And I want to get back into dance classes, going for coffee or tea with some friends. And I'm restarting my pottery class next week. So I'm really prioritizing some time for myself and for reconnecting with friends. My mama mess up. Oh, I haven't done that post-summer purge. Things have just been accumulating in the house. Clothes, kitchen cupboards are full. Once I shop at Costco, I don't know where to put things. So that was a motivation. I had Stuart on board on the weekend, and he helped me clean out his drawers with getting rid of his old clothes. He would try things on. He would tell me things that he probably wasn't going to wear. So we did a purge that way. And I've done my closet, but I still need to do my drawers with all of that clothes because I just did a fall shop and now I got to clean out some room to put things away. But that's felt good. And then I actually woke up early on the weekend, and because my shoulder was bothering me, I couldn't do my workout, but it made me clean out some of the kitchen cupboards. So that felt amazing, just to get rid of stuff, put things that I bought from Costco into the cupboard. So I forget how good it feels to have some system of organization and to declutter. I do aim for a minimalist lifestyle. I'm nowhere near that, but yeah, it feels good to get rid of things. And then my mama must have is our air fryer. We've we used it a lot in the summer because I didn't want to turn on the stove when it was so hot. I even tried, it's kind of like a breakfast oatmeal banana bread recipe. That's so easy. I can link to that in the show notes. You just mix everything in. The only sweetness was from the bananas and the dairy-free chocolate chips. I didn't even add the extra honey they called for, and it was delicious. I'm addicted to it. It's really good. But we've cooked everything from roasting peppers and garlic to sweet potatoes to squash. I love making crispy tofu in there. I'm just so excited to try more recipes, and we even use it to reheat our food as well. So thank you everybody for listening. You can email us or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. We'd love you to subscribe, leave us a review and a 5-star rating if you enjoyed this episode. You can also support us by visiting our Patreon page. Please tell your perimenopausal mama friends about us too. So stay safe and healthy, everybody. Until next time. Bye.